All right, welcome everyone to the September 2025 meeting of Lower Makefield Farmland Preservation Board. I'm Michael Blank, and joining me in the room today,
George Heinze.
George Heinze, your speaker on?
It is. Green buttons on.
Okay. And on Zoom, we have
Dan Bankoske.
Sean Carney.
All right, great. All right, well, having 4 people here, that's a quorum, so we can move ahead with our meeting. And the first item is approval of the minutes, which I'll turn over to our secretary, George Heinze.
Okay. The meeting minutes from the July meeting have been circulated amongst the board and feedback done and finalized. So I'd like to have a motion to accept the meeting minutes from July as presented.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, meeting minutes from July are approved.
Thank you. Thanks, George. Dan, treasurer's report.
We'll be able to keep this one quick too. We had about 67 since this is going back to beginning of August. So August through the September 16th through today, we had about 6,700 in expenses that we paid to Corcoran that include both buffer management as well as a number of jobs they had with tree work on a number of different properties. We also had 11,456 that was paid to premium excavating for the work over at Heather Ridge, and that job should be complete now, and that should be the final expense for that. We also received 2,000 in a credit column here, 2,325 from Charland Farms, and that is for the for Heather Ridge as well. They had previously only paid, or they did not pay the rent on Heather Ridge for the full amount because they weren't able to access it. So now they paid the full amount of rent there, since now they can actually access it and plan it.
Thanks.
That is all.
Any questions for Dan? I would just say that was on the part of the stewards to pay so rapidly. I think they found a way to access it before the actual excavation took place.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
must have been
correct.
dry. So that's great. So he got his planting in. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. All right. Well, we're at that now. Old business. So the first thing is access to Heather Ridge Fields. And as Dan said, the stewards did not have access because they would have to go on over Tom McGowan's Sterling farm to gain access, and he wouldn't let us do that. So,
but you are right, Mike. They ended up Tom and Charland Farms did come to an agreement there that was temporary that allowed them to get it planted. Now they have a permanent access by a different way.
Right. Thank you. So the project that was done with under Dennis's purview was for premium excavation to clear out the old driveway there. And as Dan said, that's been completed. It's been done satisfactorily. It's been seeded and straw netted as well. And Dennis and Tim Stewart inspected it with premium excavation. They were happy with it. There's just some question about getting his longest piece of equipment that he'll need later in the year to get across there along the riprap rock. So he'll test that out in the wet season and see how that goes. So other than that, they agreed to modify if needed. They'll see how it goes as a test and move on from there. I thought it was a really good resolution to a problem that was puzzling all of us for a long time. Questions, thoughts on that? Okay. So move on to the next item, which has to do with Leedom. Sean, you want to talk about Millings, and I'll talk about the caution signs.
Sure. So the entrance and exit way for Leedom's, as we know, is in a bit of a difficult spot, wet, so on. We've undergone a couple of different iterations of what we can do there, but given our priorities around costs, this year we took up the Heather Ridge project to get Charlotte Farms access to that farm. So we shelved doing the driveway parking area turnaround of Leedom's. The township was willing to deliver millings from roads that they're ripping up during the paving season for Tim and Sam to be able to spread in that parking area for a little firmer ground, especially if they're entering and exiting with the big trucks full when it's wet. So I saw, I want to say 2 or 3 very large dump truck loads delivered there in the past couple of weeks. Tim is aware that they're there, so they won't be of surprise to him when he goes to harvest. And he and Sam will spread those with their machines in an even fashion around the low spots, and hopefully it will assist until we get back around to that project if we do decide to move forward with the totality of that project that we had scoped for us this year.
That's very good news at the Millings, because that's been in the works for about a year, I would say.
It has.
Good. Okay. Well, on the caution signs, I sent in a inquiry to PennDOT about putting up farm machinery entering, exiting the highway caution signs. And they came back and said it's within the authority of the township to put up those signs. I said, great. And so I asked Derek Fuller, can we move forward and what needs to be done? And he said, there's still a form that he needs to submit to PennDOT because it's the state highway right-of-way that the signs go on. And something about the cost as well, which I don't understand why, but anyway, he's too busy to do it now and said to check back with him winter time when things are slower, and he would then move forward with this. So that's in the works. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah.
On deer hunting, so Dennis wrote out an update, and please, Sean, add to it as you would like. So he said that the red tags are now called ag tags.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's short for agricultural tags or just they are ag tags.
Agricultural tags, yeah.
Okay. So he's had these from the PA Game Commission for 5 properties of ours. Now includes Heather Ridge for the first time, as the stewards are okay. I guess they're okay with hunting on that property.
Mm-hmm.
And the ag tags have been distributed to the roster hunters. He said, thanks to you, Sean, for maintaining that roster.
Mm-hmm.
The season started August 1st, ends September 19th as the regular archery season begins, and then restarts after the end of the regular hunting season. It restarts January 25th of next year. And so, Sean, I don't know if you want to add to that or.
Not a lot to add other than each of the red tags or ag tags have been distributed to the hunters on a first come first served basis, and if they fill their tag and give us the details so that we can log it, then they're welcome to another tag on that property as long as there's still any available. Because we're getting close to the September 19th, I've only received one update of harvests, and that came from BOMA, who does their hunting for us on Leedom's farm. So we have the updated roster. Everyone has their tags. We've been in great communication, and we have a harvest report. So I think everything's in good order there.
A general question, how is the roster, has it expanded? Has it sort of been maintained? More interest, less interest?
Yeah, so as you know, over the past couple of years, Dennis and I have done our due diligence on understanding everyone who's hunting on our property, because hunting is one of those things where, hey, I have a stand over here, why don't you come join me type of thing. Before you know it, you have too many people on too few acres. So Dennis and I went around, we looked for every deer stand on every property. We tagged it with a notification to please contact us, and we would then distribute legal tags, meaning we knew exactly who it was. We had all of their information, so on, and they had been vetted by us. Any tag that no one responded to, we either took it down, or we had one of the hunters that knew who it was get in touch with them. So each of the stands on each of our properties, we know exactly who they are. They're all tagged with tags that we had made up. We have good communication back and forth. We know their driver's license number. We know their license plate number. All of these things we might need. The township police also have a copy of it. We have thinned it down a bit. So some people that had found their way in there that maybe weren't using the same practices that we would care for have been asked to leave. And we have allowed a couple of other folks in who have been on a roster asking for, if we ever had an opening or there was any ability to hunt. So the main thing for Dennis and I is that everything is done above board. It's done safely. It's done discreetly. And we don't have too many hunters on too few acres. So that's kind of what's important to us. And right here, right now, that's the position that we're in.
And with the Belden property, formerly we called it Longshore, where Jeff Herco's property backs into.
Yeah.
How is that situation now? Because
Good.
there was
So
a
as you recall, we shut that property down from hunting about a year and a half ago due to a couple of issues that we had. We left it vacant for a period of time, and then we reestablished this year with adding 2 hunters back. We actually invited 3 hunters, one that used to hunt there. We never heard back and from that person. So right now there's 2 people hunting there. Both of their stands are tagged. They have ag tags. So that property's going well.
Great, great. And I remember that as we've walked around in the past, there've been a lot of stands that we said, well, who put that up? Or that must have been there for years. Did any of those stands that we've seen and didn't know who it was, did any of those people contact you and say, hey, that's me and I'd like to join?
Yes, all the stands not being used are down. I think on our first walk through there, we found something like 8 stands. We think we had 6 that were active and 2 that were put up that were just not being used. They were overgrown. All those stands have been pulled down. When we asked each of the hunters to vacate that property over a year and a half ago, everyone came in and got their stands. Dennis and I went back and verified that all stands had been removed from the property. And then when we invited hunters back this year, I have been back there and seen that just those 2 hunters are present on that property.
Excellent. Great work from you and Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move right on again to you, Sean, for buffer maintenance and winter work.
Yeah, so buffer maintenance is going well. I think, we agree as well as neighbors. I've seen recent communications from neighbors that may have us wanting to come out and take a look at a tree or something on their property. But it seems recently everyone has mentioned something about the well-maintained buffers, and a big thank you to the board. So kudos to everyone on that. I know that Corcoran has gone through and done their 3rd cutting. So there's 1 more to go. I know that they're always a little relaxed to do this one too early, because one year they did it too early and we actually needed to do a 5th. And that's a situation we kind of like to stay out of unless it's a special situation. So I would assume that they'll wait until the colder weather begins to come in. They may even wait until after the harvesting is done on the farms to go in and do that final cut, which they mow down nice and low, weed whack, and just make sure that they all look good, for the fall season. So we have 1 more of those to go. My request would be that it's mid-September right now. So by definition, we will meet again in November. At the November meeting, I would like to go over anyone that has any winter projects that they'd like to tackle. As you know, in the past 2 years, we've been able to complete everything on our winter project inside the 10 days. So we don't have anything left over from last year. But I do know that a couple projects have popped up on the old Stack House and some other places where we have some work to go back and do. Either it has been pointed out by us or by Matt Corcoran when he has been out there that he has tagged an area for some winter work. So in the November meeting, I'd like to go over any projects that we have. We'll figure out how many days that is. I'll get in touch with Matt. We can go out and walk the properties. Anybody's welcome to do that. We'll point out the jobs that we've identified and then let him determine the best time to do them. Obviously, they like to do them when the ground is nice and firm, and it's traditionally in the new year. I noticed that more of them get done in February and in March than they do December and January. But that would be my ask for winter projects, please.
So Sean, do you have any, as of right now, do you have anything that has been identified already for those winter projects?
That's a very good question. Let's see. 20, yes. 1542 Wexford Court is the only thing I have on my winter projects. So
That's Heather Ridge, right?
that's Heather Ridge. Yes. So
Okay, the reason I'm asking is on Stackhouse,
Mhm.
behind those first three houses that come in on Brookfield.
Yeah.
And I will get you the numbers. I mean, I have them, but when we were looking into the one house over there off of that court on the other side of the highway on Brookfield, that's on the Bond Farm.
Right.
And I walked that, even though I didn't send you my response. When I walked that, those buffers are extremely wide. There's a lot of well-maintained, right?
Right.
And I get that. So I didn't see why we needed to do that extra work on that behind the house. So having done that, I went back to Stackhouse because this year I got another phone call from somebody who lived on the corner of the house, again, about the property as it's right up against our fence. That goes back. We have a stretch of a wooded area type of thing. And what I noticed, I went back afterwards, and when Matt cuts the buffer, he comes in from Woodside, goes straight along the farm fields, kind of goes around, eventually gets to a point where he does get back to the fence line about the fourth house up. But I also noticed that he goes in about 15 or 20 yards to the left around that one fence because he can get to it.
Mhm.
But from that point all the way out to Woodside, it's very heavily done. The fence is being overgrown. There's stuff that does, and inevitably one time a year or sometime a year, I get a phone call or you guys pass along something saying, you know, along the fence line, it's really not being maintained. As I've walked it and looked at it, I understand why we don't want to go through all the tree sections and cut in there because that's going to be a lot of work on an ongoing basis. That being said, I do think we have an opportunity to go along the fence line and maybe cut a 10-foot swath that we could clean it up this winter. And then on an ongoing basis, Matt can easily maintain that. So the neighbors who live along there aren't always calling once a year to talk about something that is either going into their yard, going over the fence, ruining our fence or whatever it is. Up to now, we've kind of ignored it. And I think it's time we do a little bit better work on that and then try to maintain it. Everything in between in the wooded section, it's fine to leave wooded and stuff like that. But along the fence line behind those three houses, I think we should take a closer look at it and come up with a game plan to clean that up once and for all in a winter project setting. And then on an ongoing buffer maintenance, it would be easy because my guess is from where he goes in now to where he'd have to come out, once it's maintained and once it's cleaned up, it can't take him more than 10 minutes to do that 4 times a year, you know, type of thing back in there. So, you know, I think Sean, you and I and Matt can meet there someday. But that's the one I'm going to put on the table in November anyway.
Okay.
So I'm just giving us the heads up now that I think we should look at it ahead of time.
Yeah, I've got it noted. This is an area that I can remember looking at with Sam Stewart and Dennis years ago when they took care of the buffers. It's just it's an incredibly wet area. That's where the pipe runs underneath, if you recall. It's very wet. I do believe at least 1 or 2 of those neighbors on the corner, George, and correct me if I'm wrong, they put fences up against our fences. And you know that 9 out of 10 calls we get where there's overgrowth traditionally somebody has tried to put a fence up near ours, there's ultimately going to be a bit of a gap, a void area. They or their maintenance crew, lawn crew takes up, does the best they can up to the fence. We do what we can up to our fence, because I've been out there with a weed whacker, and I know you've been out there with me, where we've tried to prune that area to the best of our ability. But then lo and behold, in that void, we'll get a ton of growth. So we'll get Matt out there. We'll take a look at it. If it's something, it obviously looks like something we can put on our winter list, unless a whole bunch of things pop up between now and then, and we can form a plan, either in a single year, or even if it's a multi-year plan, to get that area kind of cleaned up the best we can. The one thing I do know is one of the residents in that area contacted us this year and made a comment that I know, and it was loose quotes. I see other properties being maintained better than behind my house. But what's happening is directly across the street, the most obvious, the township takes care of that cutting, because they go back to the basin. And the township basically has a rule: you're driving back to the basin, put the mower down. So that area gets cut very often, very well. And I see that may be what that resident is speaking of. Why is that being cut at a completely different rate than what's happening behind my house? Because we only do ours, 4 times a year. We know what they look like throughout the years. But this is known as an issue. I have it on my list, so we'll discuss it. But better than that, we'll get Matt on board, and we'll set a date to get out there and figure out a plan.
Yeah, because I think the area along the fence is not as wet as the area interior between there and the field.
Mhm.
So I think along the fence, if we get it done properly, I think we have a shot at being able to maintain it and kind of get ahead of some of those complaints. Now, on the positive side, the 4th house up from there, I happen to know the people, and I was out there walking the property, and he was out there cutting his yard and grass. And he actually complimented us for how well we're maintaining the buffer along the fence line from his point out. So I think what we're doing is really good. And I think the neighbors do recognize it. It's those 3 houses down in that corner that I think we have an opportunity to demonstrate our, standards a little, and diligence a little bit better. So, yeah.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
Yeah, and to your earlier point, George, about across the street towards the buffer, that the township is mainly.
That's like 25 yards, 30 yards.
Oh, it's longer, it's wider than that in places. I used my phone and measured it. To that point, I wondered what your comments are on this. I said to Tim, if you can possibly plant more,
Yeah, sure.
feel free, because it's actually too wide there based on the 25 yard or 25 foot.
Well, actually, from what I remember, it's only 20 or 25 feet we're supposed to maintain,
25 feet, right,
not 25 yards.
right. Yeah,
Some of it's 30.
Yeah, it's 25 feet, right. So it's more like in some places they're closing in on 60 feet. So, all right. So very good. All right. So that's old business, new business. So we've had a couple of contacts from residents about our neighbors about trees, especially having to do with the windstorm or storms that have been coming. And the first one is on the Bond Farm. And that one was closer to Dolington Road. And a neighbor called and said that trees had come down in a wooded area. There's a wooded area close to the fence line there. And had worried about it. When I went out to investigate, I saw that trees had come down in the wooded area and thought nothing of it. That's going to happen. We're not going to do anything about that. But at the same time, out in the field, there were significant branches that had blown down. And I alerted Sean to it, and Matt, he alerted Matt, and that's what Dan had talked about. That's part of what we paid Matt extra to do, to clean that up, and it's fine now. And I informed the resident that's what we did, that's what I observed, and hadn't heard anything back from him. So that was resolved. And George, Bridle Estates?
Yeah, so at 1225 Bridle Estates, I met with the homeowner there. She had called, and part of it was because during one of the bad storms, there's 2 trees that are about 10 or 15 feet in from the property line behind their house on our farmland over there. And during the storm, the trees were just getting whipped around big time. I don't know what kind of trees they are, but they were kind of bending and going back and forth. She was a little concerned that they might break loose or come down in their yard. Matt looked at it. He said the trees are healthy. When I went over there and met with her, I went there and I saw the trees. They are healthy. They're big, tall trees. And they do sway. And yes, if it were to come down just due to Mother Nature, depending on which way it falls, they're tall enough that they could hit the fence line. However, when I explained to her how often we do the buffer maintenance and how people look at it, and so between Matt over there quarterly or his team, myself walking the property lines periodically, she was very satisfied that we were keeping, tabs on it and, making sure everything was fine. She had no other issues with it, and she just appreciated somebody coming out, explaining the situation to her, what we do on an ongoing basis to make sure that whole buffer area is maintained. And I sent a follow-up note to Katie saying it was resolved, no other issues. So we're done.
Good, good. I just wondered, the question about these contacts on trees, now that we've put together our policy and put it on the LMT website, policy as far as tree damage. I wondered if anyone had picked up that some residents had read that, and perhaps that's why they were contacting us?
This just happened to be her observation during a storm of the trees going back and forth, and
Right.
just concerned about, the whole thing, but
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah, same with my incident. Okay, so the next item is the Historic Structures Demolition Ordinance. As you know, Dennis updated the board, it was last meeting, I think it was last meeting, that the Historical Commission had put together a proposed demolition ordinance that would talk about things like demolition by neglect and what historical structures could be demolished and what the time frame. Anyway, that has not moved forward, has not been brought before the Board of Supervisors, even though it has been on their agenda, a draft agenda, but never actually made it to the final agenda. Dennis just wanted to bring it to our attention because he, on his Patterson Farm Master Plan Implementation Committee, has been cooperating with the Historical Commission to raise awareness, so that individually or as a board, I'd like to have a discussion of that, whether there's any interest on your parts, and then as a full board, to join with the Historical Commission or the Patterson Farm Implementation Commission to push for this ordinance to get on the Board of Supervisors agenda.
I don't have a strong feeling one way or another. We don't have many historical buildings on our properties, right?
That's true. Yeah, we don't have structures on our properties for the most part, except that we've had an interest in the Patterson Farm and of course the Satterwaith House and the Janey House there as well. Now, I personally have actually written to the Board of Supervisors about the crumbling buildings in the Edgewood Village, the intersection of Edgewood and Yardley Langhorne Road, and said it's just a sore sight to see those, and probably a safety issue too. I don't know why they haven't been taken down. I did that as a private, a resident, not as a member of this board. And I'd encourage others to write too. I don't know why it's being held up. So I feel strongly about this, but I know Dennis just wanted to keep us as a board informed of what's going on there. Any thoughts, comments? Okay. All right. And as far as other business, announcements, it's not kind of an announcement, but another other business. I was here to pick up the key for tonight. I was here at the Township Building and noticed the fall newsletter. I don't know if you received that, but in there is a list of opportunities for volunteer, and it lists the boards, commissions that are looking for members, and ours was on that list. Do you guys know something I don't know? I was just wondering, so we're full. Maybe I'll just let them know that we're at the moment not looking for a new member, but I thought that was funny. Anything else as far as other business? I don't have any upcoming events or deadlines of any kind.
Neither do I.
Okay, hearing none. So November meeting, I'm going to be out of town. And I think we should have it. I mean, since we're only doing it every other, so I'm going to ask Dennis, and if he can't, then one of the other board members to run the meeting. We'll see. We'll see what Dennis says to start with. We'll try him first.
So the next meeting would be November the 18th,
At the third Tuesday.
third Tuesday.
Right. 12. Oh. I might be back. Okay. Well, I'll have to look at it. No. This is presenting a paper in Vancouver, actually.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, that's the only other things I had. Did anybody else have any other business?
Nope.
Okay, if not, we can turn to action items.
I have none.
I just had the one from Sean to bring all of us to bring any winter projects that we know of in our fields to the November meeting.
And Mike, not to add work for anybody, but can I add another action item? At the
Yeah.
November meeting, can we discuss the year-end social event date, just so we can get that on the calendar early?
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, we may want to try to figure that out before November meeting. Yeah.
I was thinking similar.
Okay.
And we might find ourselves without a place to go and without many
Yeah.
people being able to say yes, given the time of year.
Is there any preference to stay with where we've been having it? Because
Oh, no, it's great. It's just,
I'm fine with that.
yeah,
we'll just have to get on it early. That's all. That's been a very
Yeah.
popular spot.
okay. Because I did notice that Makefield Highlands also,
Yes.
Oh,
Just there this today.
okay, has events too. So we'll try the usual place and maybe go to there if we have to, go elsewhere if we have to. All right. All right, well, that's it. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Almost a half hour early, I will note.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, say aye.
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 Okay, very good. Nice seeing everyone.
You too. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
take care.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.